Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for One Piece chapter 1066. When we last left our heroes, we opened with Caribou coming out and sort of talking to Zoro and Brook kicking him off of the ship, despite the fact they're on a government island. And the rest of the chapter is spent with Sanji and the gang. Learning more about Egghead, we are introduced to each of the other Vegapunks, Edison, Pythagoras, and York. And the Jinbei Seraphim, who has a power very similar to Senor Pink's Swim Fruit, which is definitely an interesting little tidbit there. We'll see where exactly Oda is going with that. But that fight, before anyone can really suffer any real damage from it, is stopped by Shaka, who asks if the group believes that Egghead is a futuristic island, and he corrects them, saying that actually Egghead's technology is derived from the past, from 900 years ago, which we all know as the start of the Void Century. So with that said, let's dive right on into chapter 1066, The Will of Ohara. So, we're getting some Void Century shit here, I do believe. Germa 66 is on the Motionless Excursion, Volume 23, Germa returns with added bonus. So yeah, Germa has made it back to... I mean, they don't really have a homeland. They're a wandering island. Though, as I recall, maybe they're going back to, they were kicked out of their island, so they might be going back there. But they have Caesar on board at this point. I guess we're sort of leaving the Blackbeard plotline of this cover story alone for now. But yeah, let's jump on in. We pick up where we left off, with the gang reacting to Vegapunk's reveal. What's that supposed to mean? That long in the past? There used to be a futuristic city just like this one? I think this is Shaka sort of clarifying, only in theory, as far as I know. There was once a man who gave his life for archaeology, and brought that kingdom's existence to light. Okay. That might be... Because I thought what we knew about why Ohara was destroyed was that they had researched the poneglyphs too much, right? Or did they get, specific information about the Void Century out of the poneglyphs? I don't quite recall. It's been too long. I might need to go reread Robin's backstory one of these days. But Shaka goes on, and that timeline matches up with the period in which a certain machine, discovered elsewhere, was originally produced. And Robin the timeline has matched up in her head. She gets what's going on here. Would that machine happen to have been made during the Void Century? And Shaka turns back, kind of testing here. How much do you know exactly? And I guess Robin never quite got around to talking about this with the gang. I guess, our bit of Robin backstory was largely... that wasn't anyone telling the Straw Hats that. That was just Robin sort of flashing back. And she might not have told the details, given the sort of penalties of knowing about the Void Century. Nami asked her, Robin, you know about this? And Shaka goes on, I realize this may be painful for you to remember. Your hometown of Ohara was leveled by the Navy's Buster Call 22 years ago, after all. I suspect this was because Ohara had discovered the evidence of that particular kingdom. Okay, so what Shaka's saying here implies that we didn't know exactly why the Buster Call was called. Which I thought we knew and then I had just forgotten, but maybe we never quite knew the details. But Shaka goes on, the Void Century, as it is called, is the history of a war between this extremely advanced civilization of the past and a group of 20 kingdoms. The 20 kingdoms won the war, and later developed the world government, creating the world that we know today. That is more information on the Void Century than we have ever gotten in the however many years it's been since it was first brought up. I imagine during Water 7 or Enies Lobby. I don't think we've ever gotten more information, or maybe Skypiea, honestly. I don't think we've ever gotten more information than a history of a war between this advanced civilization. We knew the 20 kingdoms founded the world government. But what makes me curious there is that when I hear a story of one big advanced civilization and a group of ragtag, of 20, in a smaller, a group of a bunch of smaller kingdoms, it feels a bit like an underdog story. These 20 kingdoms were sort of oppressed by the the technological island and rose up. But the world government sort of, like, my problem with that theory as a whole is then why would they keep the Void Century secret? So, I don't know. I'm throwing theories into the wind. We'll see what comes of them. And in order to ensure that the ideals of that ancient kingdom could not be passed down, they erased all traces of it from history. Okay, so the way Shaka presents that is that, like, it's not so much a hiding the history of our own wrongdoing, as I kind of always assumed the Void Century was. It's almost a force of good. I mean, depending on your concept of good, you might disagree with that definition, but still. And that shocks the Straw Hats. Robin, what? Not Robin, Nami's. What? How could that be? And Usopp's like bug-eyed, huh? What? Is that really true? And Frankie is just glowing. Whoa! Talk about a tale packed with romance and mystery. And Sanji questions, hang on a second, Vegapunk. Doesn't that mean that everyone who's learned about this will be eliminated? Yes. Okay. He's just and the Straw Hats don't react well to being told that the knowledge they just gained could kill them. Why are you telling us then? I heard him say it. And Usopp is like trying to like slam his head into the ground to forget. Forget all of it, Usopp. You don't know anything. You didn't hear anything. But Shaka tells them all, I told you, it's only a theory. But Nico Robin, if Ohara was indeed wiped out over this theory, wouldn't that mean the government has essentially admitted that it is true? Though, it's still a theory that's why Ohara was wiped out, right? Or maybe not. I think Robin here is implying that no, that is what happened. In what capacity are you speaking here? The scholars of Ohara had to perform painstaking research on precious ancient texts to arrive at that theory. With your status, can you learn the truth straight from the government? No. Whether affiliated with the government or not, the result would be the same. Even I would be eliminated for speaking about it. Yeah? You just might, Vegapunk, given all who's coming here. And Usopp yells, I don't want to hear it then. This is torture. Just let us go. And Shaka just sort of doesn't react, and Robin presses. This is very important for her. In that case, how did you learn about the Ancient Kingdom? All the texts, the library that Ohara compiled, it's all... And Shaka stops her. The will of Ohara still lives. Which freezes Robin. As Shaka goes on, the events of that day shocked the world. The island of scholars, Ohara, the most knowledgeable place in the world, destroyed in the course of a single night, with only one little girl left alive. For the crime of being a fanatical sect of scholars seeking to overturn the world government itself. And Robin, faced with all the propaganda spread about her family, just freezes. Several months after it happened, I took a trip to the charred remains of Ohara. I'd known the great archaeologist Dr. Clover in life, and thought it appropriate to pay my respects to his memory. Shocking Robin, of course. You knew Professor Clover? He was an adventurer who obsessed over the Void Century, and traveled the world in search of rare texts. Clover was arrested by the Navy and broke out of prison 10 whole times. It made him the most famous archaeologist in the world. So, and we see him, practically a pirate. Full on, has a pirate sword. He's part of a pirate crew. Eventually, other scholars were drawn to him and his quest, and Ohara became a sacred land for archaeology. Their brilliance was the cause of their tragedy. I set foot on Ohara where even the tree of knowledge had been burned to the ground, and what I saw stunned me. I'm more stunned by Vegapunk's silhouette right there. That it seems like his head is 3 or 4 times the length of his body, which I don't know what's going on with that original Vegapunk. But he goes on, the lake in the center of the island was full of a massive collection of books and papers of all kinds. And he sees the lake empty, I think. What is this? I suspect that as the Buster Call burned down the island around them. Oh, no. They had tossed the books in the lake. They're not normally full. Okay, they had tossed the books into the lake as the Buster Call came. That makes more sense. The scholars of Ohara made their final stand, and died protecting the fortune they wished to leave behind for the future. Ignorant scholars would not have the ability to recognize ignorant soldiers would not have the ability to recognize the value of what they were seeing. Ohara won. Which, that's the sort of thing I think maybe Robin needed to hear her entire life. When I saw and understood what had happened, it left me helpless to stop the tears from coming. As she flashes back to her final conversation with Olvia. Please take care of Robin. Make sure she escapes from the island. I still have things to do here. And she now knows what that means. As Nami calls, Mother, I don't want to leave you. I'll stay with you. Save the books. Throw them out the windows. And I assume this all was in that original scene. It's another one of those things I need to go reread now that it's important again. Robin, history is humanity's greatest asset. We cannot give up on the future of the world. Mother! And this is like Saul carrying her away. Be proud, Robin. Your mother is noble. Ohara fought against the world. And realizing what Olvia died to do, Robin bursts into tears. Just overwhelmed by what Vegapunk has told her. And Nami yells, Hey, what's the big idea of making Robin cry? Stupid helmet. And Frankie joins in. You're gonna get it, Vegapunk, as soon as you release my shoes. And Robin calls to him, Vegapunk. Just as you suspected, Ohara uncovered the existence of the ancient kingdom. And Shaka notes, I see. Then it is the truth. Where are the books in the lake now? I wanted to take them back to Punk Hazard with me. But if my superiors had heard about it, all would have been lost. The truth is, I encountered quite a combination of people that day. Ohara, West Blue, 22 years ago, months after the Buster Call incident. And I'm assuming this is Vegapunk. Who's here at these ruins? Giants? Is this what the original Vegapunk looked like? With this long tongue? Alright, lift it up. What are giants doing here? What do I do now? Do they understand the value of these books? Oh, the giants are fishing the books out of the lake. Maybe they knew Saul? I don't know. I feel like that might be a possibility. And someone calls to Vegapunk from behind. It's been a while. Hello, Vegapunk. Not that I had to guess that it was you, thanks to that head of yours. That silhouette almost looks like Shanks. I'm sure it's not... Oh, it might be Dragon. I feel like it's going to be Dragon. Because Vegapunk, we see his human form the first time. Is that Dragon? And yes, it is in fact Dragon. What are you doing here? And Dragon sort of scoffs at him. I'd ask the same of you, Vegapunk. Somehow your head has grown even larger. I knew old Clover as it happens. And we do get a full shot of Vegapunk. And I'm glad that's not the Vegapunk form we have to actually deal with, because I am uncomfortable. I am deeply uncomfortable. The way, his head is so, long, but the hairline sort of dips into, a heart shape. His tongue is, almost as easy to mistake for, a tie. But Monkey D. Dragon, captain of the Freedom Fighters, age 33, which is not what they had been called in the past, yeah? Nowadays are the revolutionaries. That's not just a different translation, is it? I guess the revolutionaries grew and stopped being merely freedom fighters. Vegapunk at age 43 was already the director of Punk Hazard Lab. Anyway, Dragon, they both brought flowers for Clover's grave. I knew old Clover as it happens. You too? Well, he had a way of trotting around the globe, didn't he? The idea that he would try to destroy the world? A bad joke of a cover-up. And Dragon goes on to say to Vegapunk, are you curious about those giants too? They're not thieves. I already looked into it. They've come from Elbath, it seems. And they know what those books down there are worth. Their captain was a strange man, all covered in bandages. He said Ohara gave their lives to save this asset of humanity. We can't let it be erased from history. Could that have been Saul? I had assumed Saul died during the Ohara Incident. But to be fair, I don't quite recall. I don't know. I might have just gotten a spoiler for the chapter, though. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, Dragon goes on, it's a good thing that your world government didn't figure it out, and come back to destroy the books that remained. And Vegapunk protests, now just a moment. I'm not. But Dragon stops him and made me sick to hear the news. That you're a government lapdog now. When you were too good to accept our offer to join the freedom fighters. Don't be stupid. What would my intellect and expertise achieve within an impoverished military force like yours? Yes, I know. You were always honest to a fault. So, like, Vegapunk is just very much a sort of opportunist we see here. He's gonna side with whoever can, like, let him be a scientist. He goes on, the world government is a massive organization. And within the Navy in particular, there are many reasonable people to be found. Don't lose sight of the goal, Dragon. Okay. What? I assume their goal was just overthrowing the world government, but if there are reasonable people in the Navy that could tie into Dragon's goal, what is that goal? I know. But I'll admit, this one really shook me. The crime of speaking their minds to the cruel, unfair force that is the law, a group of powerless academics, was obliterated by extreme violence. But I will create a military force that can actually fight back. Okay. So Ohara isn't just Robin's defining moment, it's also Dragon's. And Vegapunk questions, you will? Despite your hatred of war? Just watch, Vegapunk. I'll change the world. I'll see to it that Clover's death and Ohara's will don't go to waste. I was thinking will is like the transitive verb and not the noun. And Shaka notes, before that year had ended, he joined with Emporio Ivankov and Bartholomew Kuma to create the revolutionary army that now shakes the world to its core. So, but also, like, acknowledging, Kuma, I don't think this is the first, I think this is the first time we knew that Ivankov and Kuma were, like, the two co-founders of the revolutionaries with Dragon. And that makes Vegapunk's simultaneous friendship with Dragon and experimentation on Kuma to be very interesting. Vegapunk is a very tricky character, and I'm excited to see how they sort of expand. And Nami notes, I didn't realize Luffy's dad was so passionate. And Usopp hyper-focused, did I hear you mention Elbaf? And Robin is also shocked. Dragon and Professor Clover had a connection too? And Frankie, grabbing his head, my brain is overflowing, man. Why did Kuma help us? Why did you make him a cyborg, Vegapunk? There's my question. And Sanji questions, Eva was a founding member of the Revolutionaries? They all of them have some connection to the events here. But Vegapunk notes, it's true that we must not allow the government to discover that Ohara's library still lives. So out of personal interest, I traveled to Elbaf in secret, and read all of the books they rescued. In other words, all of the world's mysteries that Ohara deciphered. And we see a bandaged giant that very well could be Saul, pointing to the library with Vegapunk, are right here in my brain, where I have carried on the great work of researching them. And Robin just cries, that giant captain. His name was Saul, wasn't it? He is currently in hiding. So yeah, Saul is alive. I could not tell you more, whoever he might be. But Robin takes that, through her tears, appreciates the message. Thank you, Dr. Vegapunk, for ensuring that Ohara's battle wasn't in vain. And Shaka notes, I am simply engaged in all the areas of study. It is the nature of a scholar. And then the shoes start moving on their own, apparently. The shoes are moving on their own. I cannot release you, but you may come with me. I have something to show you. Is that going to be Void Sentry related? I don't know. But we cut back down to the Fabrio phase, in the scrap heap with Team Luffy. Luffy and Chopper still playing on the giant robot. Hey, Chopper, There's no place to ride inside it. Oh, it must be the kind that goes on its own. And they start, like, planning what to, like, get the robot to move. Then how about, go, robot! And Chopper's just frustrated, what's the command? And Luffy tells him, no, I bet we have to call its name first. Go, Robonosuke! Go, Robo King! And Bonnie just, like, sighs at them. You guys are such dumb little kids. That's not going to... and then this, like, shockwave emanates from the robot. Ah! The robot exploded! And then I think this is the human Vegapunk. The normal Vegapunk. Help! I Rayquaza help! Is Vegapunk just gonna make a bunch of, like, science puns or something? I failed again, blast it! Someone! Anyone! I Rayquaza help! Did time-space get twisted somehow while I was warping? Oh, he's teleport. It's like a teleportation thing, I guess. And he's, like, still half inside the robot. And Luffy calling back to the Punk Hazard, split body part drama. What's with this guy? He looks like Kinemon. Hang on, I'll save you. And he tries to pull, Vegapunk out. Thanks. And I think it works. And Bonnie recognizes him. Wait, that's... and Vegapunk turns to Luffy. Thank you. You're Dragon's son, aren't you? I knew you were here. Thank you for coming. And you, Bonnie, how much you've grown. He starts to, like, levitate. It's good to see you flourishing. Bonnie is not gonna be happy about this. And Luffy notes, what? Is he floating? And Bonnie just yells, Vegapunk! And Vegapunk ignores it. I see you're wearing them too. Look, the Dom shoes have a hover function. Huh? Just push in the button on the side, grab the lever, and push it down. Like this? That's it. And Vegapunk, Luffy, and Chopper all go flying into the sky. Uh-oh, we shot up too high. Woohoo! And all three of them go flying. I Rayquaza help! Dr. Vegapunk, the smartest man in the world. SSG, Navy Special Science Group leader. To be continued. And I'm glad that present-day Vegapunk has dropped the heart, and it's just like a little... like his head looks cut off around here, where a head should be, and like an apple top is covering the top of his head. Which, like, maybe he cut out his brain to be the six bodies. But yeah, Void Sentry lore, Ohara lore, Ohara backstory. For those of us who've been waiting for Void Sentry shit for years, here it all is. In all of its glory. Well, I mean, in somewhat of its glory. We don't get a lot of the details, of the Void Sentry itself, but we do find out a sort of epilogue to the incident at Ohara. And it changed the world in a lot of ways that the world government was not expecting. You know, both from the fact that the book survived and are all in Elbaf now, which is another thing pushing us towards an Elbaf arc, I suppose. Along with all the ways Elbaf has been built up since like 2000. But also the way that Ohara ended up being the impetus for the birth of the revolutionaries, along with Dragon's alliance with Ivankov and Kuma, which is a nice little way of tying it all together. That Dragon, like, it humanizes Dragon a way that a lot of these both the post-Wano chapters and the Egghead arc now sort of has done. Given that, like, for so long, Dragon was sort of talked about. You know, we knew he was Luffy's dad. He had that sort of intimidating interaction with him at the start of the series. But, like, he was largely a figure in the background. And it feels like more and more, with his rage at what happened to Kuma, with his friendship with Vegapunk, with the desire for revenge for Ohara, we're starting to see Dragon as more of a person than just this sort of distant figure. Though, given Dragon's rage at Kuma, I am curious to see how he's going to react to Vegapunk. Well, I mean, he still seems to be friends with Vegapunk, because they had that, like, phone call a few chapters ago. But also, I'm curious about that goal. On page, I think it's 13? On page 11, Vegapunk mentions, in the Navy in particular, there are many reasonable people to be found. Don't lose sight of the goal. Like, the goal and the Navy can coexist, whatever Dragon's goal is. So I'm very curious to work out what exactly is going on there. Because that does seem to be a very interesting note. But also it's just sweet. You know, all of the stuff with Robin, like the whole moment of Robin learning that Saul lived, that the will of Ohara lived on, that everything her mother and all of the adults on Ohara did was not for nothing. Even if they died, their will continues to live on, is so good. Like, this is a Robin Stan account. We should all be Robin Stans, let's be honest. And she deserves this. You know, to know that all of that pain and suffering she went through was worth it, that knowledge continues to live, that just feels good. That just feels so good. You know? It's just some good shit. That's what I have to say about that. But now the seventh, the Vegapunk Zero, is also here. And we'll see how exactly Bonnie is going to deal with that. Because there's a whole bunch that could happen now that... Like, how different is the human Vegapunk from his robots? I don't know. I'm excited to see what's going on with Vegapunk. But mostly, I'm just... warms my heart, the will of Ohara. Like, what a fucking chapter, y'all. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, you know, do whatever makes you happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!